this is Ruth Theresa with One Inspiring Woman, and today we're talking all things Venus in the sign of Leo. And I know you're like, wait, Ruth, wait. You've already done a couple of these videos. I understand, but I was reading an article the other day, and I have a whole bunch more to explain to you. That's right. I know there's tons of stuff about Venus in the sign of Leo and how this is going to change so many things. And I found this one and it was really kind of like, interesting, because there's some master number energy in this as well. So it's kind of like, interesting. So let's kind of talk a little bit about this. So June 6th, Venus enters the sign of Leo. No big deal. It starts to change. June 20th, Venus goes into pre-shadow energy. So it starts its slow back up into retrograde. July 22nd, maybe 23rd, depending on where you are in the world, Venus stations full retrograde until September 3rd or 4th, depending on where you are in the world. At that time frame, Venus stations direct means it finishes its full retrograde cycle and then goes into post-shadow energy where it's starting to speed up. And until it leaves post-shadow energy on October 7th, and then it leaves all of Venus energy alone and kind of moves on. Venus moves on into a different sign as of October 10th. So I was kind of like, okay, looking at some other information. So I was really trying to find something different, because I know, so I already have Venus in a very prominent place in my chart, and then I have Leo in a very prominent place in my chart. So I was like, okay, how's this going to affect me? And I found out that it's going to affect me a lot, but it may affect you as well. It just really depends. So in fact, Venus will station direct, in 12 degrees and 12 seconds of Leo. So that's a 12-12. Which is a master number, which indicates like a significance of like higher states of consciousness, kind of like that higher realm, that higher thinking, not just necessarily kind of what's going on, but kind of like what's coming and up for change. And kind of like as it moves up, it's going to get more and more changes. It's kind of like just going from like kindergarten, first grade through second grade, and as it goes up, it's going to be changing its energy and really modifying a lot. It seems that whatever transpires under this retrograde season, so basically from June 20th until October 7th, kind of during that time frame. Now, the most prominent time would be when it's full in retrograde from July 22nd until September 3rd or 4th. That's going to be like the really strict time. The other parts are going to be a little bit more lenient. This is where we're going to find ourselves moving up in awareness and perhaps kind of really looking at things from a completely different mindset, a completely different like, oh wow, I would normally get upset by this, but I'm not, or I would normally be totally whacked out by all of this, and I'm really calm, cool, and collected. So it's kind of like, okay. So that's kind of one of those interesting parts. And it's kind of like as your thinking changes. Let's go back to the whole high school scenario again. So things that would have upset you in first or second grade really don't even bother you in high school. Does that make sense? Like someone stole your pen and you're like, in high school, you're like, whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like not a big deal. Now in first or second grade, you're like, my world's coming to an end. Yeah, that's what we're kind of talking about. And all of this energy is kind of like things that would normally bother us, that normally would like irk us or whatever else, like even just a few years ago, are just going to be like, whatever, let it go. It's not a big deal. And so that's where we're kind of like making those changes. One of the things for sure is going to be changing is kind of the rules that relates to ourselves and our relationships and what we value in our relationship, what we value with our money, kind of like how we're going to spend our money. And it's not necessarily like, oh, I'm just going to go buy everything, or no, I'm going to hoard everything. It's going to be like, I find a value in this. I don't find a value in that. And that really changing. Now, Venus is always about how people love, how they show their love, how they kind of like exhibit that to the world. You know, it's one of those like a wedding ring. So it's kind of like, how is that displayed? So you're going to see people either kind of magnifying that or kind of de-magnifying that. So you could see some people that get engaged during this time frame with like a big old honking ring on them, and you're like, wow, that's really cool. And then someone else like, oh, I just need a little bitty gold band, or I just need a little tiny diamond. It's not a big deal. And it's not necessarily about the size of the diamond. It's about how I value the other person. How do I show the value? And a lot of times, like, people are like, oh, women just love big diamonds. No, not all women love big diamonds, but it's one of those, like, it's kind of like, what are they valuing? Are they valuing the relationship more than the diamond? So it's kind of, interesting. I know. So kind of, one of the other things is kind of like beauty, and you're going to see some beauty changes come during this time frame. We always do, or things that come up from the past, like things that people thought were beautiful coming in, and usually some new kind of technology with it, or something else. I saw someone with kind of a very interesting design, and it reminded me of the 70s the other day, and I was like, that's what I'm talking about. But it was like the same colors almost, but the design was different, the material was different, and the shape of it was different. So it was kind of like upgraded and new, but the material looked very much old school. I will tell you kind of, typically in a retrograde, especially in Venus in retrograde, people are going to be making decisions based on love, not anything else. Not like, let me show this off or anything else. It's the relationships. Let me show you how much I love you. Let me show you how I love you in this department. So it's kind of like, interesting. Venus in retrograde is not typically considered a good time to start a new relationship. If it starts prior to it going into retrograde, you really have a great basis for a relationship, because it's going to be really talking about, like, how do you show love? How do you show this energy off? How do you get into this energy? So yes. And kind of changing your appearance and redesigning your space may also be part of that, kind of like the place that you love, where you feel comfortable, the place that you value, otherwise you wouldn't be living there, is kind of a neat one. Ideas that show your views and shifting transformations, kind of like, how do I shift and change out of this? Whatever changes in your relationship will kind of be part of the old you and kind of moving into the new you. So it's kind of like, what am I ready to get rid of and what am I willing to step into? And that's kind of really, there's some new things that are kind of almost like the new you is ready to be birthed. The new you is ready to come out, and kind of like, how am I going to change? Now, Venus only goes into retrograde every 18 months or so. So this energy is kind of rare. It's not an every year kind of thing. Well, some planets, like, they're in retrograde every year. Now, and that little old Mercury, he's always in retrograde, it seems like. But Venus doesn't go into retrograde that often. So it's really highlighting some areas where we can really show and amp up our love. We can really embrace new perspectives and what's coming in new for us. And that's going to be making a lot of changes for us. Venus during retrograde shifts from kind of being our evening star to our morning star, kind of like bringing us up even earlier. I've noticed that kind of shift as we get into this energy. I was waking up way earlier. I'm normally a night owl. I was waking up at 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning, and I'm like wide awake. It's like, okay, why am I wide awake? It's because of Venus. Venus is always visible in the night sky. But I will say by August 12th or 13th, Venus will disappear from the evening sky and eventually rise as our morning star, because it's gone into retrograde so much. Part of rebirthing in Venus is all about that energy of kind of, what do we want to bring in new? What do we want to birth new in ourselves? What do we want to change or modify about ourselves? Not anybody else. So what do we want to change and modify about ourselves? This is going to be a really interesting one. I will tell you, as we kind of deal with this energy, Venus in the sign of Leo, for all of this time frame, we will kind of really have some long time to kind of really look at things differently. What do we value? What do we change? How do we want to do this? And it's kind of like Venus is going to be like really highlighting what we love, and what we love is what we're going to consider a value. And it's not necessarily a dollar value, but like, what do we value? And I will tell you that you will see a lot more people kind of like spending time together, not necessarily like, let's go on vacation all the time, but it could be, I want to spend some time with you. I want to energetically be near you. And this is going to really bring up people's passion. This could also bring up a lot of creativity and really a desire to kind of create new things, or kind of create new things that we want to do together, or find new things that we want to do together. Never knew you liked this, but let's go do this, or whatever it is. And now I really love it. When we are out of balance with Venus, it's one of those, it's going to make us feel like someone is really like seeking our attention and kind of being overly dramatic. So that's when you know, like, let's stay away from that. And that's all about that kind of that materialistic energy. And because Venus comes in with that, what do we love and what do we value? It's one of those, if someone's not right in their Venus of speaking about love, talking about love, dealing with love, you are going to see them kind of go towards more the materialistic side, the kind of the weird side, and not necessarily the energy side of it. Like, I want to show my love. I really, really love this, or I really want to do this, or show this to you. Anybody who's being overly dramatic usually has an issue in their Venus, probably in their natal chart somewhere. It's kind of interesting. Let's see. Venus travels in retrograde, and it activates so many themes in Leo, kind of like bringing out that kind of that Leo energy. And this is going to be questioning things around us, kind of like what our passion, our desires, kind of listening to people, but like listening with our hearts, like really listening. And this can come in with a deeper understanding of like what is really important to us, and what do we really desire, what do we want to bring forward. And you may see some relationships coming to an ending because people are not valuing the same thing. Like, they value time with them, but this person only valued the money with them. And so it's kind of like a lot of people are like, no, this is not what I want. And this could bring a lot of people into kind of healing old relationship wounds, wounds from like their parents, where it should have been like a lot of love or a lot of desire for love, a lot of like clean, healthy, good, like, yes, I love my kid and I want to show them off, or whatever it is, like, I want to do these things. And it's going to be highlighting those for people. So it's kind of like, oh, here are the old wounds, and they're going to keep coming up during this time frame. So if you're having a hard time with Venus in retrograde in the sign of Leo, know that there's probably some past relationship or past wounds. And it could be relationships with other people, it could be relationships like friends, but it could also go into relationship with our parents, or even going into past lives. And this is going to be kind of like bringing that up even more. So I guarantee you there's going to be a lot of people going through a rough time with Venus in retrograde. Doesn't necessarily mean it has to be rough. If you've been doing your work, if you're doing your things that you know that you should be doing in all of this, it's not so bad. You should be able to kind of work through this. I know for a lot of people already kind of working through this energy, really feeling this strongly and wanting some new changes in their life. And it's one of those, anything that doesn't work will just kind of fall apart. Let's do some angel cards, and let's see what our angels want us to know about all of this. The first one popping forward is body care. Taking care of us is one of those super, super, super important activities. And I will tell you, this is a really important one for us to take care of, because we have to value us. I know it's like, really? Yeah, we got to value us. We've got to take care of us. Our archangels, our guardian angels are coming in all the time to support us through this energy, kind of bring in that love and that abundance, and really kind of showing us like those signs. So make sure you're asking for your guardian angels to leave you signs of what's coming up next and where you should be going next. My next one is trust. Trust that your angels and guides are showing you the way. Trust what's coming up or what's falling apart during this time frame, because that's really kind of showing you, like, if this is falling apart at this time frame, there's a reason for it, and look for those reasons. The last one is set your intentions. Set your intentions of showing other people how much you love them, how much you value them, spending time with them, kind of really even going into like what is their love language. Because so many times people kind of forget, like, I like love this way and this person likes it differently. I need to show or kind of distribute that love in a way that they can understand it and they can accept it from me. I thank you so much for joining me today, and I know that we'll be talking again soon.